maybe you retweeted it. I don't know. It's the turnover margin in these playoffs graphic, and the Eagles are +10, and the Chiefs are -1. And it said the two ways to make the Super Bowl, win the turnover battle or have Patrick Mahomes, whatever. I think it was a CBS NFL graphic, whatever. One of the concerns that if I were in the office when Cab was spouting his Eagles propaganda a few hours ago, I would have said is the Eagles have played 3 consecutive opponents who also, in critical spots, self-immolated. And they might be +8, not +10. Where Jordan Love was J-No in that game. The Rams, it is toe-to-toe, back-to-back possessions, Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford fumbles, the game flips. This game, it's 13-12, and the next time Jaden Daniels has the ball, it's 27-12.
But the balls,
you know what
so can I just refute those? One, because now I'm being like, since I'm the Eagles guy, all the Eagles people are saying, like, one, a lot of those fumbles are getting forced by the defense.
100%.
Yeah.
Two, the Stafford thing, we came on and we did not kill Stafford because he had 320-something yards for that fumble. Matt Stafford, you could argue, lost that game. But he had and Jalen Hurts takes care of the ball. You just don't get any credit. I don't want to make like a huge life state. You don't get any credit for
taking care of
business.
Yeah.
It's like
showing up to work on
showing up to work. It's like
time.
it was like, who's a hero? This person who ran into the burning building and then jumped out. Like, who's also a hero? The person that comes home every day and puts food on the table and
provide for the family.
Yeah, it's like I'm not doing anything special. But like, man, I'm there every day and I'm never screwing up.
Yeah.
There's value in that, but it's not.
There's definitely value in that, but there's also
Sully landing the plane.
That's also expected.
Yes.
But it
You
doesn't
come
happen.
to work and take care of business.
No.
But I'm saying that's expected. Now, what we then now to expect from guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, because we've seen them be so great, we've seen them be superstars. That's their level of standard. That's their expectation. They can no longer come to work and just do their job.
I think the point you make is a good one. And if the audience was mad that we didn't kill Stafford more, I got to say that's a failure by you guys. I'm the Stafford guy. I was really, that whole show, I was a little nervous. I was like, is anyone going to make the, you killed Lamar for the turnover about Stafford? I'm like, I'm not going to. It's not my job to argue with myself here, fellas. You guys left meat on the bone there. My concern if I'm Philly is I just don't think Patrick's going to do that. And so now you're in a game where you're not going to have those extra possessions, where you're not going to have the other, you know what I mean, with all of those turnovers going your way. And if you are even in the possessions, yes, Jalen has to not only, as you said, put food on the table, but he might also have to save a kid from the burning building. And we know the other guy can. And so that to me is the concern.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't throw interceptions in Super Bowls, does he? No, he's never done that before. He doesn't turn the ball over. You guys realize that Patrick Mahomes has 5 interceptions in 4 Super Bowls and 5 fumbles in 4 Super Bowls? I just want to throw that out there. Just want to throw that out there. Now, again, to be clear, I think Patrick Mahomes will be great in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is an unbelievable player. But just be like, this idea that there won't be any opportunities for the Philadelphia Eagles to force turnovers is just like, that's not what history has shown us at all. So, he threw an interception just against the 49ers last year. Like one of the worst interceptions like I've ever seen. So, he fumbled the ball against the Buffalo Bills on just a handoff. It wasn't forced at all. So, can we just stop? It's just, And again, if you're trying to win the game and you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you're banking on Patrick Mahomes to be bad, well then, better luck next year then. So again, let's be very clear about what I'm saying. I'm not expecting Patrick Mahomes to be bad or that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be able to take advantage of Mahomes being bad or the Chiefs being bad and turning the ball over. That's not the point of this video at all. In fact, like the real thing that I actually really wanted to tackle is what Nick said earlier, where he said, hey, you know, the Eagles played these 3 teams, and these 3 teams had a ton of turnovers. And it's actually something that I had this conversation when, you know, I was watching a bunch of the games with my dad, actually, you know, and I brought that up to him. And I said, you know, this is kind of interesting. This Eagles team, they've definitely been able to force a lot of turnovers. And again, whether you want to say that they were forced by the Philadelphia Eagles or not, or whatever, that's all well and good, because a bunch of them are absolutely forced by the Eagles defense itself, right? Like it was their style of play that led to it. But we do know that fumbles, sometimes it goes out of bounds, sometimes it's just more easily recoverable from the offense. Like, you know, it is a roll of the dice. Where's it going to go? Can you scoop it up and run for 30 yards? Like it is a variable that you can't always predict. It's not hard to imagine that some of these fumbles that were kind of punched out could have just, again, went out of bounds or scooped back up from a Packers player, from, you know, some people think that Packer actually recovered the ball. Like it's just, you just don't know. You just don't know. And again, you can't really argue against that. But it is interesting because I am going to expect the Kansas City Chiefs to play a lot cleaner ball. And so in that Philadelphia Eagles defense, you do want to see them be able to still be a great defense and shut down the Kansas City Chiefs without just forcing fumbles. So if you're an Eagles fan, there can be some feelings of being unsettled a bit, because there were multiple drives that were like, oh man, the Commanders, or, you know, whoever, and really not the Packers, but the Commanders, the Rams, whatever, you're like, okay, they got some momentum going, and then you force a turnover. And I don't want to say a turnover bails you out, because again, it's caused by the defense, but it is like, it is just one of those things where it's just like, and again, I fought back against the narratives of, oh, if you take away the turnovers and if you take away the touchdowns, then it would be a close game. Like, I push back on that narrative. But again, if you're trying to just really depersonalize it and take a step back, I do think it's something that's worth discussing. Because if you think you're going to be able to force 4 turnovers from the Kansas City Chiefs, like, I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening. And again, I know Patrick Mahomes has thrown 5 interceptions in 4 Super Bowls and some fumbles. But again, if you're banking on Patrick Mahomes just having an off day or making a few bad throws, and that's how you're going to win the game, like, that can't be the mentality. That just can't be the mentality. I'm going into this game with the mindset of, like, you're going to get the best version of the Kansas City Chiefs, that you're going to get their best ball. So the real thing is that you need the best ball of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think if both teams play their best ball, then the Philadelphia Eagles win, because I think they just have a better roster. That's what I think. But I think, though, that the Kansas City Chiefs are more likely to play their best ball, and the Philadelphia Eagles would be more likely to make a mistake. That's why this game is a toss-up for me. Because I don't know, can the Philadelphia Eagles play their best ball? Like, we keep hearing all these, like, oh, so-and-so hasn't thrown an interception in you know, 200 I think both Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, you right? Like, they have this kind of streak going or whatever, and it's like, you know, who will throw an interception first? And it's just like, yeah, who will? Does Jalen Hurts throw that interception? Does a 50-50 ball get tipped up, and now a Kansas City Chiefs player, you know, gets it? I don't think that would shock a Philadelphia Eagle fan. And if Patrick Mahomes throws an interception in the first quarter, that shouldn't shock anyone that's watched these Super Bowls unfold. So it's just like, it's just, who knows? How's this going to unfold? I do know, without a shadow of a doubt, that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have an awesome game plan with Andy Reid and Spags, etc. Like, I have the utmost respect for that coaching staff, and we just know the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be prepared. We just know that. The Philadelphia Eagles, from my viewpoint, need to be able to keep pace. They need to be able to keep pace, and if the way these games have continued to unfold for them, it's like you keep pace, and then you just take advantage of your strengths. You wear them down, and you take over in that second half. But I don't know, because again, Super Bowls, like, everything is just different. Everything is just different. The way how officiating is, the commercial breaks, like a lot of players talk about that, like, especially if it's your first Super Bowl, there's extra time on the field, but between, TV timeouts and stuff, that, like, as a player, you need to, like, realize that, because, like, it just changes kind of the rhythm of what you're used to. So, like, everything really changes. The extended halftime, like, there's just a lot of stuff energetically that changes. Everyone is obviously like, this is the Super Bowl. It's all hands on deck. Let's go. There literally is no tomorrow, So it just becomes very hard to predict. And you're going up against a coaching staff, more than just a team, but of course a coaching staff, as well as, probably what I think, like, maybe like 3 or 4 players that have literally been there from the beginning, Kelsey, Mahomes, Andy Spags, and I know I'm missing probably a couple other players, but like, like, they've been there. Like, the real true key pieces have at least been there for a couple Super Bowls, right? At least a couple. Some of them have already faced the Eagles. So that's what it's going to be interesting. And now the Eagles have a handful of guys that have definitely been there through a handful of Super Bowls. This will be their third for some of them. Some of them it'll be their second. So they have that experience. But like, Kellen Moore doesn't have experience. And of course, Kellen Moore is like interviewing with the Saints now. And it's just like, I don't know. It's different. I do enjoy talking about this more zoomed in aspect of the things, like what Nick brought up. I think it's worth talking about and worth discussing, like, because it's where my mind went when I was just kind of thinking about, oh, how do I think this game will go? How do I think this game will unfold? And the Chiefs take advantage of other teams' bad play in a lot of ways, because they're so consistent. They don't make the mistakes. And even if they do make a mistake, they can still just bank on the other team to make 2 mistakes or whatever. And the Eagles, again, they've been able to feast on these turnovers, this playoff run on 3 straight games. Like, it can't be denied. And so now what happens if you go up against a team that does not turn the ball over, or they only turn the ball over once? Like, that's what's going to be interesting. Can you shut down this defense beyond just turnovers? Can you, shut down this offense? Can your defense shut down the offense? Can you force 3rd and longs? Can you force 4th and longs? Because it feels like in this, especially in this Super Bowl, if the Kansas City Chiefs are at the 40, their own 40, or the Eagles 40, and it's 4th and 3, it just feels like the Kansas City Chiefs are going to go for it. They're not going to punt it, no matter what the situation is, whether they're up 14-7 or whether they're down 14-0. Or whether they're up 21-3. It seems like no matter what the scenario is that it is, they're going to go for it. And it's the same thing with the Eagles. And I pointed this out before. Like, the Eagles, it was like 4th and 3 against the Commanders, and Jalen Hurts throws a beautiful ball, and it's like, and AJ catches it, boom. But in the Super Bowl, but I think also, was it against the Packers? I think it was. They did the fake brotherly shove, throw to AJ, a little long. So which version do you get in the Super Bowl now? Do you convert that 4th and long? Or is it just off the fingertips? Is it just out of reach? That's why, to me, it's so unpredictable. What version are we going to get? And what's a little exciting now, this is what's actually kind of exciting. Because, again, as you can see, it says, how much credit does Jalen deserve for the Super Bowl run? And the reality is that they've now had like 3 different discussions in this one clip, which is why I actually broke it down to 3 different clips. You have Jalen Hurts. We know certain quarterbacks can handle the moment and can really step up and be special. Now, I've defended Jalen Hurts every step of the way. Every step of the way. But it's actually going to be really fascinating, because I do not think that Jalen Hurts is this perfect quarterback. I do not have the same level of confidence in Jalen Hurts that I do, say, like a Patrick Mahomes, or obviously like a Tom Brady, or, maybe even like a Joe Burrow or Josh Allen. There's other 2 quarterbacks, like, and not in terms of talent, but in terms of their ability to like step up when the moment matters. And what's so fascinating to me is that, like, Jalen Hurts, he really may just, when we talk about the clutch gene, we talk about these quarterbacks who can really step up in the big moments, and where we call out the Lamar Jacksons, we call out the Dak Prescotts, the Brock Purdy's, even some of these other newer quarterbacks now, can they handle the moment? And that's why everybody was praising Jaden Daniels Jalen Hurts has the ability to be like, I am one of those guys that when the moment calls for it, I absolutely positively rise to the occasion. Because this is now going to be a second Super Bowl. And we saw him absolutely ball out and not waver. And not waver. Even when he fumbled in the Super Bowl, it was like it never happened. He just kept moving forward and continued to ball out. He wasn't now like afraid to make a mistake. He just continued to ball out. And it's just so fascinating because if that truly is who Jalen Hurts is, and you get the best game of Jalen Hurts, if you get Jalen Hurts' best game, then if you get his best game, then you certainly are going to get the best game of Saquon and AJ and Devontae and Dallas. You certainly are. Then it's just up to the defense to just slow down a handful of drives, maybe force a turnover. And your Super Bowl heroes, man. Your Super Bowl winners. So that's what I'm also really kind of excited to see. Does Jalen Hurts prove to be a quarterback where it's like, yes, when the moment is brightest, when the lights are brightest, when the moment is needed more than anything, I rise to the occasion. I don't think we can say he definitely is that. I really don't. Because we haven't seen it enough. That's why this is going to be a second Super Bowl. If he balls out in this second Super Bowl, then you could say, I trust Jalen, right? In any future game, any future playoff game, it would make total sense to be like, I'm not doubting Jalen. Just like how people say, I'm not doubting Patrick Mahomes. I'm not doubting Tom Brady. I'm not, like, you could just be like, nope, no one should doubt Jalen. Oh, Jalen Hurts had a bad game. He had a couple bad games in week 7 and week 8. Cool, whatever. In the playoffs, we know he's going to ball without a shadow of a doubt. I think that Jalen Hurts gets to enter that equation if he can ball out in this Super Bowl. And again, it feels to me that if Jalen Hurts balls out in this Super Bowl, and if he plays like he did in 22, this Eagles team should win because they are just a better roster. That's what it feels like to me. But now if I remove that aspect of it, and I'm just trying to be like, what do I make of these two teams? Not trying to necessarily predict how well Jalen Hurts will be or will Saquon Barkley be able to run on this defense. I just think that the Kansas City Chiefs will fundamentally be a more prepared and buttoned up game plan team because that is who they consistently have been. That is who they've consistently been for years. So there is no shadow of a doubt. They're not going to come into this game loose. They're not going to come into this game tight. It's just, what is this, Mahomes' 5th Super Bowl or whatever? Andy Reid's now been there 6 times. Like, it just is what it is. Andy Reid knows exactly how he's going to game plan this. Spags knows exactly how they're going to game plan this. I think Fangio are kind of like, I got to figure this out. And Kellen Moore definitely has to kind of figure it out. Kellen Moore's probably feeling like, oh boy. I mean, I can feel like Kellen Moore's like, oh man, how did you do this? You're in a Super Bowl right now. Like, okay, this is totally not the biggest moment of my coaching career. Like, that's the thing. This is the biggest moment in Kellen Moore's coaching career. That's kind of a thing. This is just a moment for Andy Reid. This is just a moment for Spags. This is just one of many moments. It's extra pressure. It's inexperience. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. It's inexperience. So, and again, it's something that I want to kind of continue to talk about, kind of this whole coaching battle. Because like I've said, like I kind of keep saying in all these videos is like, I just know Spags is going to have an awesome defensive plan against this Philadelphia Eagles offense. Now, can the players themselves be enough to just be like, that's great you have this game plan, but like we're just still better. We can still get through. We know Spags is going to bring the blitz. Does Kellen Moore set up Jalen Hurts for an answer? Does Jalen Hurts have an answer? Can he execute that answer? Right? If they really do successfully take away Saquon, can A.J. Brown feast? Can Jalen Hurts himself feast? Even if they try to take away Saquon, can Saquon be like, that's awesome that you're trying to take away from me, but I'm still going to rip off a 45-yard run here? Like those are so many of the different questions that I'm excited to find out. I don't think Kellen Moore is going to out game plan Spags. I do not see that. So it's going to be up to Kellen Moore to come up with a good enough game plan, a smart enough game plan, and hook Jalen up to be able to deal with these blitzes, and to deal and help Saquon Barkley get going when they're going to try to go all in on taking away from him. Not to mention when they go all in to take away Saquon Barkley, make sure Jalen Hurts is set up to now, expose those deficits to attack with AJ, Devontae, and Dallas, and anyone else that might be in at the time. Right? Like that will be up to Kellen Moore. But again, it's going to be up to the guys to make it happen. Because we saw all the tight coverage that the Rams were able to bring. We saw especially the tight coverage again in the Packers game. And that's why it'll come down to when they're all over AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts is throwing a tight window throw, even if it's just 5 yards. We saw AJ even drop it against the Commanders early on in the game. And it's like, he's got to come down with it. You got to come down with it. It's got to be 2nd and 5, not 2nd and 10. It's got to be 3rd and 3, not 3rd and 8. It's got to be 4th and 1, not 4th and 3. Like it's just, from my viewpoint, it's got to be. Got to be. So I don't know. I can keep unpacking this game so much, and I enjoy doing it in a more gritty way rather than the more kind of like, stop doubting the Eagles or what the heck. Like I actually like to kind of more zoom in on it, on what I think practically needs to happen, rather than does Jalen Hurts deserve more credit for the Super Bowl run? Like, I enjoy that stuff too. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to act like I don't enjoy that. It's just that I just feel like my cup has been full with all of those takes, because that's all it's been. Right? Did anyone really ever talk about how the Eagles can beat the Rams? What do the Eagles need to do to beat the Rams? Did anyone really talk about what the Eagles need to do to beat the Commanders? Like, no. It was just, will Jalen Hurts' knee affect the Commanders, in the game versus the Commanders, right? Jalen Hurts was terrible against the Packers. Well, does A.J. Brown need to have a big game for them to beat the Rams? Like, who would you rather have, Matthew Stafford or Jalen Hurts? And it's like, you almost forget. And the problem is that there's so many more games. There's other games to talk about. The Buffalo Bills versus the Ravens, the Bills versus the Chiefs. Like, there's other games going on where you kind of just like address it and then you move on to the new team or the new player, the new game, whatever. But with this right here, we're just talking about Eagles, Chiefs, Eagles, Chiefs, Eagles, Chiefs. So it's just like, okay, we've now talked enough about this. I've defended Jalen. I've defended the Eagles. I've done all these types of things. It's like, now let's talk about more about the game. Let's talk about how can this game unfold? How can the Chiefs win this game? How can the Eagles win this game? How can the Chiefs lose this game? How can the Eagles lose this game? What's it going to be like Fangio going up against Andy? What's it going to be like Spags going up against Kellen Moore? It's all of these different things. What can Kellen Moore do to make life easier for Jalen Hurts? Just like Brady should have done to make Josh Allen's life easier against Spags and that defense, which they failed to do. So that's what really interests me right now in this moment. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of continuing to flesh out my own thoughts, honestly, and try to figure out like how can I drill down and lock in exactly all the different ways that I'm seeing this, as well as listening to what you guys all think. The one thing I definitely noticed with a lot of these takes and a lot of these videos and how they unfold and kind of the reaction that they get is it's definitely, and it makes sense, but it's the Super Bowl. These are the final two teams, and everyone's really, really confident. Everyone's really confident and excited. It's, oh, no one can beat the Chiefs. We're unstoppable. And the Eagles are like, yeah, right. Saquon Barkley's running for 200. It's a battle. It's a battle. So I've been trying my best to kind of sliver out, a path of some nuance and being able to look at it from all the different angles, both the more narrative storyline type stuff, like how much credit does Jalen deserve, but then also a more practical from a player perspective, from a coach perspective, et cetera, et cetera. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? Kind of how this game will unfold. Kind of what Nick was saying about, the Eagles have been able to definitely, take advantage, even if they are making that advantage themselves in terms of all the turnovers. And the most likely outcome of that not being a big aspect for this game and kind of, how will the Eagles adjust to that? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, Let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I now want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.